Hello, everybody. So, welcome to Data Tracks, a guided tour through your information lifecycle. Today, we're going to be following the fascinating life cycle of data from its creation to an in-depth analysis of where it goes after. Immerse yourself in our dynamic group discussion. We're going to share personal experience, unlock essential insights, learn about data security, and acquire practical tips for responsible data sharing and protection. With that, we're going to move on to our first slide. Today's objective is to explore personal experiences with data, trace the cycle of data creation, collection, storage, and analysis to increase awareness of privacy and security considerations in the digital age. Acquire tips for responsible data sharing and protection. One example that I use when it comes to data is app tracking. Every day, I usually track to see how many hours I'm spending on Instagram, how many hours I'm spending on TikTok. Any of those apps, I usually track to see how much I'm spending to make sure I'm using my time correctly. So here is all the different things that's going on with the city when it comes to data. In order to view a lot more information, you do have to create an account, I believe. But over here, you can see all the different data lists. You can see for hire for vehicles, job application fillings, TLC driver, new driver application. And you can see the amount of views, the downloads. You can download the Excel file. I'm going to show you guys right now. So for an example, I just downloaded the job application fillings and it shows the updated frequency, a brief description and all of that. Detailed description. There also is column info that you can look around, data revision set and drop down options. There's different options that you can look at when it comes to these data set infos. For an example, on the website, once you go to about, next to about, there is a data section. You can see all the different job numbers, the borough, how much hours, street name, down to if it was signed off. These are all the different data that was picked up within the past, I believe, what's the date? Some of them are from 2005, 2006. We have one from 2022. So with this website, you can search up different things on any data related items. So for an example, DOB permit license, you can check on the data for that one right here. As you can see here, we have different boroughs, Manhattan, Staten Island, different bridge types. And as we keep scrolling, there's different types of categories. So job start date, you got business names. You can see the business names of anyone that is using the permit. All of this data is collected and stored within this website. I just saw in the chat, you can access all the info on the Open Data portal without creating an account, but you need an account to save your filtered views of a data set. All right, so we're going to move on to our next slide. What I want you guys to do is reflect on moments when you've interacted with data, such as using social media, shopping online, or accessing healthcare records. So for an example, I have this game on my phone called Pokemon Go. It tracks my steps, it tracks my location, it tracks how fast I'm walking, if I'm actually walking, or if I'm on the bus. That's one way that I've interacted with data is using Pokemon Go. There's also Apple Fitness or fitness watches such as Apple Watches, Fitbits, and all of that. All of that tracks your information, your BMI, your health. If you type in anything of your health within Fitbit or Apple Watch, it'll definitely let you know. I know the newer Apple Watches now, once you have a bad fall, it will automatically call 911 to get you to safety. So currently I want you guys to brainstorm moments you've interacted with data, such as using social media, shopping online, or accessing healthcare records. Within those three categories, I want you guys to think about it. Once you guys have thought about it, please raise your hand. I definitely want to hear you guys' life stories when it comes to data. Another example for me when it comes to data is shopping online. A lot of the times when I'm searching for any new cameras or anything that I'm interested in, Google picks it up and then starts referring me to different cameras using ads, or if I'm searching up Canon cameras for experienced users, it'll bring up a bunch of websites that are only Canon cameras because that's what I've been looking for my search history. So when it comes to shopping, social media, or accessing healthcare records, reflect on any of those moments that you've like interacted with data using those items. What are the negatives when it comes to data? Is there any positives or negatives when it comes to receiving the data? Think of anything that comes to mind when it comes to positives and negatives. What I feel like some positives when it comes to data is with the healthcare system, hospitals, doctors, they have information on your health, how tall you are, your last recorded weight. All of that helps with emergency services to know what you're allergic to, what you need when it comes to helping you if you're asthmatic, diabetic, like I said before, or anything along those lines. Data can definitely be a positive for that. But there's also some negatives when it comes to data breaches and all of that. Data breaches can leak your information to people that you might not want to have that information for. We're going to really quickly talk about understanding the data lifecycle. So first we have generation. For the data lifecycle to begin, data must be first generated, otherwise the following steps cannot be initiated. Data generation occurs regardless of whether you are aware of it, especially in our increasingly online world. Some of this data is generated by your organization, some by your customers, and some by third parties you may or may not be aware of. Every sale, purchase, hire, communication, interaction, everything generates data. Given the proper attention, the data can lead to powerful insights that allow you to better serve your customers and become more effective in your role. Moving on, next step in our data cycle is collection. Not all of the data that is generated every day is collected or used. It's up to your data team to identify what information should be captured and the best means for doing so, and what data is unnecessary or irrelevant to the project at hand. You can collect data in a variety of different ways, including forms, web forms, client or customer intake forms, vendor forms, and human resource application are some of the most common ways business generate data. Surveys can be an effective way to gather a vast amount of information from a large number of respondents. Interviews and focus groups are conducted with customers, with users. After data has been collected and processed, opportunities to gather qualitative future use. This is the most commonly achieved difficult to capture the creation of databases and data sets. Direct observation. These data sets may be stored in the cloud or on servers. Your website using another or product should be the most a hard drive effective way to gather data that may not be offered floppy disk. When determining it's important to note that many organizations take a broad organization. It is important to build a certain level of redundancy to ensure that a copy of your data will be protected and accessible. While drawing even from if the original source becomes corruptedly an option. Next up, it is always important to start creating a plan. Data management can also be called database. Next up, we're going to be talking about processing, organizing, storing, and retrieving data must be processed as necessarily and refer to various activities. Data project. Data wrangling is in which a data set is cleaned and transformed an ongoing raw form that takes place from the beginning through the end of something more accessible. Data management includes everything as data storage and encryption, data merging, implementing or access logs and remediation, change logs, data compression in which data is transformed into a format, and what that can be more efficiently stored. Moving on, data encryption in which data is translated into another data analysis refers to protected from privacy concerns to Even
Clean,
the
meaningful
simple act of taking
insights
a
from raw
printed
data,
form and
analysis,
digitizing it
and
can
data
be
scientists
considered a
use
form
different
of
tools and
data
strategy
processing.
to
Next thing we're going
conduct
to be
these
talking about
analyses.
is
Some
storage.
of them are
This is the
more
most
commonly used methods include statistical modeling, algorithms, artificial intelligence, data mining, and machine learning. Exactly who performs an analysis depends on the specific challenge being addressed, as well as the size of your organization's data team. Business analysis, and data scientists can all play a role. Next, we have visualization. Data visualization refers to the process of creating graphical representation of your information, typically through the use of one or more visualization tools. Visualizing data can make it easier to quickly communicate with your analysis to a wider audience, both inside and outside of your organization. The form your visualization takes depends on the data you're working with, as well as the story you want to communicate. While technically not required as a step for all data projects, data visualization has become increasingly an important part of the data lifecycle. Now we have interpretation. Finally, the interpretation phase of the data lifecycle provides the opportunity to make sense of your analysis and visualization. Beyond simply presenting the data, this is when you investigate it through the lens of your expertise and understanding. Your interpretation may not only include a description or explanation of what the data shows, but more importantly, what the implications may be. So some real life scenarios that I'm going to go through real quick. One example is online shopping. For creation, a customer browses an online store and adds items to their shopping cart. Collection, the website collects data on the customer's browsing history, purchasing history, and demographic information. And then for storage, the customer's data is stored in an online retailer database along with customer information. The retailer now analysis is the retailer analyzes the customer's purchase history to personalize recommendations and marketing efforts. Here's another real life scenario. Number 2, we have healthcare records. The creation is a patient visits a healthcare provider and undergoes medical tests. The data that they collect is the healthcare provider records the patient's medical history, test results, and treatment plans. Storage is that the patient's health records are stored in an electronic health record EHR system or paper files. Analysis, healthcare professionals use data analytics tools to analyze patient data for diagnosis, treatment planning, and research purposes. Next, importance of data management. Case study, data breach at XYZ Corporation. XYZ Corporation is a large retail company experiences a data breach due to a security vulnerability in its online payment system. Consequences, personal and financial information from millions of customers is compromised, leading to identity theft, fraudulent transactions, and loss of trust among customers. The importance of data management is that proper data management practices, including encryption, access controls, and regular security audits, could have prevented the data breach and migrated its impact. Compliance with regulation, the GDPR compliance at ABC Company. Scenario, ABC Company is a multinational organization, ensures compliance with general data protection regulation, GDPR, by implementing strict data protection policies and procedures. The benefits, by adhering to GDPR requirements, the ABC Company protects the privacy rights of its customers, avoids hefty fines for non-compliance, and enhances its reputation as a trustworthy and responsible organization. Importance of data management. Effective data management practices such as data classification, data minimization, and data retention policies enable ABC Company to comply with GDPR regulations and maintain data integrity and security. Now, next slide is going to be privacy and security in personal and organizational data. Privacy, protecting individuals' rights to control their information, personal information, and prevent unauthorized access. This includes ensuring that personal data is collected, processed, and stored in a manner that respects individual privacy preferences and complies with relevant regulations such as GDPR and CCPA. Next slide is our security. Security is safeguarding data from breaches, thefts, or misuse through encryption, access controls, and cybersecurity measures. Security measures aim to protect data integrity, confidentiality, and availability by preventing unauthorized access, detecting and responding to the security incident, and implementing secure data storage and transmission practices. Here's a real-world example of data breaches. High-profile breaches, for example, Equifax or Facebook, and their consequences for individuals and organizations. These branches involve the unauthorized access of or theft of sensitive personal information, such as financial data or social media platforms, profiles, affecting millions of users, leading to widespread public outcry and legal action. What this basically means is a lot of high up there companies such as Facebook, Instagram, and all of those other companies, they get data breached a lot of the times because they have the most information on anybody. They have your name, high school, simple information, and complex information that people or hackers out there would really want. There's different ways of protecting yourself from this. I'm going to go ahead and talk about that right after explaining all of these real world examples. Who or what GDPR is. Okay, so GDPR, I'm going to go back because I know one of my slides said it. So GDPR is a General Data Protection Regulation. It's an abbreviation of what I just said, General Data Protection Regulation. It implements strict data protection policies and procedures for your personal data. So I'm going to move on to the next slide, which is financial losses, identity theft, and reputable damage and legal ramifications resulting from data breaches. Victims of data breaches may experience financial harm due to fraudulent transactions, identity theft, or unauthorized use of their personal information. Organizations may face lawsuits, regulatory fines, and damage to their brand reputation, resulting in significant financial and operational losses. So here are some tips for enhancing online privacy and security. Using strong, unique passwords and enabling two-factor authentication, 2FA, to add an extra layer of security to your accounts. Avoid using easily guessable passwords or reusing the same passwords across multiple accounts. Usually how data breaches work is someone will find your Facebook account password, and due to human personality, a lot of times all of us have the same passwords for every account. So hackers can just check your Pizza Hut account, see if you use the same password on that, see if you use the same password on the banking account, see if they could use the password on the same banking account. All of that without 2FA makes it way easier for them to get in just by typing your email and password. With two-factor authentication, there's two different ways of setting it up. It either sends you a text message in which you type the code in, or there's a backup email in which it will tell you, hey, someone's trying to log in, please select a number. Now, regularly updating software and devices to patch security vulnerabilities and protect against known exploits, enabling automatic updates whenever possible to ensure your systems are always up to date. Latest security patches can definitely help you out when it comes to protecting your online privacy and security. Being cautious when sharing personal information online and limit data exposure on social media platforms. Review the privacy settings and adjust them to restrict access to your profile information, posts, and photos. Think twice about sharing before sharing sensitive but personal details or engaging public discussions about sensitive topics. Practice safe browsing habits by avoiding suspicious websites, clicking on unknown links, or downloading files from untrusted sources. Use a reputable antivirus program and browser extensions to protect yourself against malware, phishing attempts, and online threats. Encrypt sensitive data when transmitting or storing it to prevent unauthorized access or interception. Use secure communication protocols, for an example, HTTPS, and encryption tools such as VPNs to protect your data, privacy, and confidentiality. Me personally, I actually use VPNs on a day-to-day basis. It allows me to stay protected online. It allows me to not reveal any locations for myself online. And there's a lot of other different things I could use with VPNs that you can't use without one. Educate yourself about the common cybersecurity threats. Stay informed about emerging trends and best practices for online safety. Regularly review cybersecurity resources and tips from reputable sources to enhance your knowledge and awareness of cybersecurity risk and preventive measures. All right, next slide is going to be best practices for safeguarding personal information online. Regularly review privacy settings on social media platforms and adjust them to limit the visibility of personal data. How do you encrypt data when storing it online? So when encrypting data, it really depends on where you're uploading this data to. Technically, the best way of encrypting your data is just storing it on a hard drive with password locks and all of that on it. Other than that, if you're looking for file sharing softwares or any of that to encrypt your data, you would have to do a lot of research on that. I do believe there are message apps that encrypts your data, such as Apple. Apple encrypts all of your iMessage data. For an example, iMessage is when you have one iPhone texting the other iPhone. It creates a blue bubble, and that Apple encrypts your data, and no matter what, they cannot give your information out because of how encrypted it is. Even if police ask for the information or police ask for text records, call records, or any of that, Apple cannot visibly give that to them because it breaches their privacy concerns. So, like I said before, reviewing your privacy settings on social media platforms and adjust them to limit the visibility of personal data is really important. I encourage you guys to regularly review and update your privacy settings on social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, which is now called X, and Instagram. There are different ways to customize your privacy settings to control who can view your profile, posts, and photos. All of this will be inside of your social media settings, and all of that will be in privacy. The importance of restricting access to personal data to trusted connections and limiting exposure to the public or unknown users is very important. Your data is basically what you are, and you only want people to know who you are if they're a trusted person and they know you well. You wouldn't want a stranger to know everything about your life, but you would want to know like your best friend or a close friend to know what's going on with your life. Next thing is to be wary of phishing scams on and suspicious emails requesting sensitive information. My go-to way of protecting myself online is if it sounds way too good to be true, then it has to be a scam. Common phishing tactics cyber criminals will use to trick individuals to disclose personal information or clicking on malicious links would be creating websites that look similar to an already existing website, for an example, Instagram.com, A lot of cyber criminals will create a link that looks similar to Instagram.com, but isn't Instagram.com. And once you type your login information and all of that, you will have your account taken. People can use your account for malicious purposes. And my go-to way of protecting my accounts, my social media accounts, my Gmail accounts is enabling two-factor authentication. That way, if I do mess up at one point and fall for one of those phishing tactics, my Instagram and my social medias are protected with two-factor authentication. Moving on, best practices for safeguarding personal information online. Definitely use a reputable antivirus software and firewall protection to prevent malware infection. This is the best way that you can make sure whatever you're downloading online isn't a Trojan, which basically, if you guys don't know what Trojans are, they're based off of the Trojan horse in real life, in which the app is going to disguise itself as something that it's not. So for an example, if you're downloading a game online, the app will disguise itself as that game, but in reality, it's stealing all of your information and all of that. So definitely keeping your information safe by using a reputable antivirus software and firewall protection to prevent malware infections is very important. Also, another best practice is always researching about cybersecurity threats and actively practicing safe online behavior. Always stay vigilant and proactive. Always stay vigilant and proactive when it comes to safeguarding your digital identities and personal data. This is very important. Like I said before, you don't want a random stranger knowing everything about you. Now, by implementing these actionable strategies and adopting a proactive approach to online security, you can enhance your ability to safeguard your personal information and protect themselves against common cybersecurity threats and the risk in today's world. Like I said, data is very important. There's good, there's bad, there's all between, but making sure that your personal data is protected with basic common cybersecurity protection will allow you to further be safe online. All right, I'll be moving on. We're going to be talking about examples of data protection and management. First off, encryption software. I remember earlier, someone asked, how do you encrypt data? We have encryption software such as Veracrypt, BitLocker, and FileVault. Encryption softwares allows users to encrypt their data to prevent unauthorized access. It scrambles data into an unreadable format, which can only be decrypted with the correct encryption key or password. Next, we have examples of data protection and management. We have data loss prevention, DLP. One example is a Symantec DLP. We have McAfee DLP and Digital Garden. DLP solutions help organizations prevent sensitive data loss by monitoring, detecting, and blocking unauthorized data transfers or breaches. They enforce data protection policies and prevent accidental or intentional data leaks. Next, we have data automation techniques. Example, K-anonymity, differential privacy, and data masking. Data anonymization techniques modify or mask sensitive information to protect individuals' privacies while preserving data utility for analysis and sharing. They ensure that individuals cannot be re-identified in an anonymized data set. Data governance frameworks. For an example, this example is going to be COBIT, ISO, IEC 27001, NIST Cyber Security Framework. Data governance frameworks provides guidelines and best practices for managing and protecting data assets throughout their lifecycle. They establish policies, procedures, and controls to ensure data quality, integrity, and security. Next, we have access control solution. An example would be role-based access control, RBAC, attribute-based access control, ABAC, identity and access management, IAM. The overview is that access control solution enables organizations to manage user permissions and restrict access to sensitive data on users' roles, attributes, or authentication factors. They prevent unauthorized users from accessing or modifying data. Next, we have, Next, we have secure file sharing platforms. We have Dropbox Business, Google Workspace, Microsoft OneDrive for Business. Secure file sharing platforms allow users to collaborate and share files securely within and outside the organization. They offer encryption, access controls, and audit trails to protect data during transmission and storage. Next one, data backup and recovery solutions. Example, VM backup and replication, Acronis backup, Carbonite. Data backup and recovery solutions enable organizations to create copies of their data and recover lost or corrupted data in the event of hardware failures, disasters, or cyber attacks. They ensure business continuity and data resilience. We have data classification tools. For this example, we have Bolden James Classifier, Kittis Classification, Varnus Data Classification. Data classification tools automatically classify and label data based on its sensitivity, importance, or regulatory requirements. They help organizations identify and prioritize data protection efforts based on data risk levels. I think everything else is just how people and companies protect your information. So I'll just skip ahead to the resources that we have at the Queensbridge Tech Lab. Here at the Queensbridge Tech Lab, we offer a lot of different programs, just similar to this one. For an example, on April's programs, we have Learning Google Workspace apps, ChatGPT, Adobe Lightroom. We have a lot of different programs for you guys to do. All of these, or the majority of them, are virtual. We do have some in-person events, such as STEM Club for Kids, and we have Pins and Needles, a sewing circle for everybody else. So here's the Queensbridge Tech Lab. We have a lot of different activities when it comes to sewing, 3D printing, Cricut, and we help support our community around us. For the Queensbridge Tech Lab, if you guys really quickly want to take a screenshot of my screen, our email is qb-programs@queenslibrary.org. This is how you can contact us, ask for our program flyer, and so much more. Here is the Open Data Week that we have for today. March programs lay over on this slide. If you want to screenshot it really quickly, you can. We have our winter schedule for 2024. And then our featured March programs is STEM Club for Kids. Your kids will be able to learn about STEM programming and so much more in that field. We also have an after hours success lounge every Thursday. This is where you can get digital literacy, high school equivalency pathways, and college and career readiness. Our location map, and you can also get certified as a Microsoft Office specialist by scanning this QR code. And that's pretty much it.